What if I told you that the person you trust most with your children could steal $25 million from the FBI and disappear forever? Every parent's worst nightmare isn't what you think it is. It's not the stranger in the van or the criminal lurking in dark alleys. It's the person with the perfect smile, flawless references, and 3 years of building your complete trust. Here's a statistic that will keep you awake tonight. Cybercriminals steal over $4 billion annually in the United States alone. But what happened in Millbrook Heights, Connecticut wasn't just another cybercrime. It was the most humiliating heist in FBI history, executed by someone who read bedtime stories to federal prosecutors' children. Have you ever hired a babysitter? Checked their references? Felt completely safe leaving your most precious possessions, your children, with someone you barely knew? Most of us have. We run background checks, call previous employers, maybe even Google their name. We think we're being careful. But what if that babysitter had an MIT computer science degree they deliberately hid? What if they spent 3 years studying your family, your routines, your passwords? What if every smile, every "how was your day," every bedtime story was part of a plan to rob the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world? Tonight, I'm going to show you how a brilliant MIT graduate fooled everyone, including federal prosecutors who specialized in catching financial criminals. This is the story of Astrid Kellerman, the babysitter who made the FBI look like amateurs. But first, ask yourself, how well do you really know the people you let into your home? The housekeeper who has your alarm code? The dog walker with your spare key? The babysitter who knows when you'll be gone for hours? Because Astrid Kellerman proved that the most dangerous criminals don't break into your house. You invite them in. You pay them. You trust them with everything that matters to you. If this story terrifies you as much as it should, hit that like button and subscribe because this case will change how you think about trust forever. It was the summer of 2018 when this quiet, wealthy community became ground zero for one of the most audacious financial crimes in American history. The FBI thought their systems were unbreakable. The Rothschild family thought their babysitter was perfect. They were all wrong. Meet Astrid Kellerman. 28 years old, warm smile, soft-spoken voice, and references that would make any parent feel completely secure. For 3 years, she was the most sought-after babysitter in Millbrook Heights, the kind of person mothers recommended to their closest friends without hesitation. Her resume was modest but impressive: early childhood education degree from the local community college, CPR certified, clean background check, and glowing testimonials from previous families. She charged reasonable rates, never complained about late nights, and genuinely seemed to love working with children. But here's what nobody knew. Astrid Kellerman held an advanced degree in computer science from MIT, one of the most prestigious tech schools in the world. She had graduated summa cum laude with expertise in cybersecurity, cryptocurrency systems, and digital forensics. This wasn't someone who stumbled into crime. This was a calculated genius who chose her battlefield carefully. Why hide such impressive credentials? Because Astrid understood something most criminals don't. The best way to become invisible is to become exactly what people expect to see. A community college graduate working with children posed zero threat. An MIT computer scientist would have raised questions. Her psychological profile reveals a fascinating mind. Astrid wasn't driven by desperation or addiction like most financial criminals. She was motivated by intellectual challenge and the thrill of psychological manipulation. She spent 3 years studying human behavior, building trust, and identifying the perfect target. Enter the Rothschild family: David, Katherine, and their 2 young children, aged 6 and 9. On paper, they seemed like an ordinary wealthy family. In reality, they were the perfect storm of opportunity and irony. David Rothschild was a tech entrepreneur who had just sold his cybersecurity startup for $180 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. The man who built systems to protect against digital theft hired the woman who would eventually rob the FBI. But the irony doesn't stop there. Katherine Rothschild was a federal prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney's Office, specializing in white-collar crime and money laundering cases. She had spent her entire career hunting down financial criminals and putting them behind bars. Her expertise included cryptocurrency tracking, offshore banking schemes, and digital evidence analysis. The Rothschilds weren't careless parents. They were highly educated, security-conscious professionals who thoroughly vetted their child care. They checked references, ran background searches, and even had Katherine's FBI colleagues provide informal security advice about protecting their family. Yet they welcomed Astrid into their most private spaces. She had keys to their home, knew their schedules, understood their security systems, and spent countless hours in their house while they worked late or traveled for business. The children adored her. She helped with homework, prepared healthy meals, and never missed a bedtime story. David appreciated her reliability during his business trips. Katherine trusted her completely, even discussing work stress knowing Astrid would listen sympathetically. This teaches us that predators don't look like monsters. They look like the most trustworthy person you know. They appear at exactly the right moment, offering exactly what you need, with credentials that check out perfectly. Astrid didn't just fool the Rothschilds. She became indispensable to them. The psychological manipulation was masterful. Astrid positioned herself as the solution to their busy lives, the reliable constant in their chaotic schedules. She remembered birthdays, asked about work presentations, and showed genuine interest in their family goals. Have you ever been completely wrong about someone you trusted? Tell us in the comments, because this story proves that even federal prosecutors can be deceived by the right psychological approach. But here's what the Rothschilds didn't realize. While Astrid was reading bedtime stories to their children, she was also reading something else. Katherine's case files, David's business emails, financial documents, security protocols. Astrid wasn't just watching their children during those 3 years. She was watching everything else. Every password David typed, every federal database Katherine accessed, every security system they installed. The perfect babysitter was actually conducting the most patient intelligence operation in criminal history. While the Rothschild children slept peacefully upstairs, Astrid was conducting graduate-level espionage in their father's home office. This wasn't random snooping. This was systematic intelligence gathering that would make professional spies envious. Her access was unprecedented. During evening babysitting sessions, after homework was finished and children were in bed, Astrid had hours of uninterrupted time with David's high-end computer setup and Katherine's work materials. The home office became her personal training ground for what would become the crime of the century. Her methodology was methodical and brilliant. Using her smartphone, she photographed hundreds of documents, contracts, case files, security protocols, and financial records. But photography was just the beginning. Astrid possessed an eidetic memory for numbers and could memorize complex passwords after seeing them typed just once. The real breakthrough came through keylogger installation. These tiny devices, no bigger than USB adapters, recorded every keystroke made on the Rothschild computers. David's business passwords, Katherine's government access codes, banking information, security system controls, everything was captured and stored. 4 months, Astrid built a comprehensive intelligence profile of the family's digital life. She learned David's business patterns, understood Katherine's case schedules, and mapped their entire cybersecurity infrastructure. This wasn't amateur hour. This was professional-grade surveillance. Katherine's laptop proved to be the golden ticket. Federal prosecutors often work from home, accessing sensitive databases through secure government connections. Astrid discovered that Katherine had credentials for the FBI's financial crimes database, a treasure trove containing details about ongoing investigations, seized assets, and witness protection information. But the real prize was information about Operation Golden Gate, a massive multi-agency investigation that had resulted in the seizure of $25 million in Bitcoin from various criminal enterprises. The cryptocurrency was being held in what the FBI called their impenetrable digital wallet system, pending court proceedings and asset forfeiture cases. The system was designed with multiple layers of authentication, encryption protocols, and oversight mechanisms. FBI cybersecurity experts had spent months creating what they believed was the most secure digital asset storage system ever developed. It required multiple authorizations, had continuous monitoring, and featured backup verification protocols that should have prevented any unauthorized access. Should have. Astrid's MIT education gave her something the FBI cybersecurity team lacked: fresh eyes and cutting-edge knowledge of emerging vulnerabilities. While government systems often lag behind private sector innovations, Astrid was current on the latest cryptocurrency security research and blockchain exploitation techniques. Through Katherine's case files, she studied the FBI's own tracking methodologies. She learned their investigative patterns, understood their digital forensics procedures, and identified their analytical blind spots. Essentially, she was reading their playbook while they had no idea she existed. The breakthrough came when she identified a critical flaw in the backup verification protocol. During routine maintenance cycles, the system had a brief window, approximately 3.7 minutes, where backup authentication temporarily relied on a single verification point instead of the usual multi-layered approach. This vulnerability existed because of a legacy code structure that the FBI's cybersecurity team had inherited from an earlier system. The original programmers had left this maintenance window to ensure system stability during updates, never anticipating that someone would have the knowledge and access to exploit it. Even more remarkably, Astrid realized she could time her attack to coincide with these maintenance windows by studying the system's automated scheduling through Katherine's access logs. The FBI was unknowingly providing her with a roadmap to their own security weakness. The level of planning here is both brilliant and terrifying. If you're as shocked as I am, smash that like button, because what comes next will make your head spin. Astrid spent 3 years playing the long game. This wasn't impulse. This was patient, calculated psychological warfare. While most criminals rush toward immediate gratification, she understood that the biggest scores require the longest preparation. She studied human psychology, cybersecurity protocols, federal investigation procedures, and cryptocurrency laundering techniques. She became an expert in multiple fields while maintaining her cover as a simple babysitter. The dedication required for this level of deception is almost incomprehensible. By October 2018, Astrid had assembled everything needed for the perfect heist: complete access to the target family's home and computers, federal database credentials, detailed knowledge of FBI security systems, and a foolproof plan to exploit a vulnerability that even government experts couldn't see. The stage was set. The players were in position. The FBI had no idea they were about to be humiliated by someone they'd never heard of. October 15, 2018, the night that would change everything and prove that the most dangerous criminal minds don't wear masks. They wear the faces of people you trust completely. Rain drummed against the windows of the Rothschild home as Astrid checked her watch. 7:15 p.m., October 15, 2018. The family had left an hour earlier for the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala, dressed in their finest attire and completely trusting her with their home, their children, and unknowingly, their entire future. The children were already asleep. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of David's high-end computer equipment in the home office. Astrid had 6 hours before the Rothschilds would return, more than enough time to execute the most audacious theft in FBI history. But this wasn't about having enough time. This was about precision timing down to the minute. 8 p.m., Astrid powered up David's main workstation, the same machine she'd observed him use countless times. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced confidence, entering Katherine's FBI database credentials from memory. The system accepted her login without question. Why wouldn't it? As far as the computer knew, Katherine Rothschild was working late from home again. 8:23 p.m., she accessed the FBI's digital asset management system. $25 million in seized Bitcoin sat in what federal agents believed was an impenetrable vault. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was using a federal prosecutor's own access to rob the FBI's own security system. 9:15 p.m., the first maintenance window opened. Astrid had calculated this moment down to the second, studying months of system logs to identify the exact timing. For exactly 3 minutes and 42 seconds, the backup verification protocol would rely on a single authentication point instead of multiple layers. Her hands moved like a surgeon's, precise, confident, without hesitation. She initiated the first transfer. 500 Bitcoin moved from the FBI wallet to an exchange in Switzerland. The system processed the transaction without triggering any alerts. The vulnerability was exactly where she predicted it would be. 9:45 p.m., transfer 1,200 Bitcoin to an exchange in Singapore. Still no alerts. The FBI's own security system was helping her rob them blind, processing each transaction as legitimate maintenance activity. 10:30 p.m., by now, Astrid had moved over half the stolen Bitcoin through 7 different exchanges across 4 continents. Each transfer followed a carefully planned route designed to exploit the FBI's own tracking blind spots knowledge she'd gained from reading Katherine's case files. The psychological pressure during these hours must have been extraordinary. One wrong keystroke, one unexpected system check, one early return by the Rothschilds, and her 3-year plan would collapse. Yet Astrid maintained perfect composure, working with the methodical patience that had defined her entire operation. 11:47 p.m. The final transfer completed. $25 million in Bitcoin had been moved through a labyrinth of cryptocurrency exchanges, privacy coins, and offshore digital wallets. Each step was designed to make the money nearly impossible to trace, even by the FBI's most sophisticated tracking systems. But here's where Astrid's psychology becomes truly fascinating. Instead of simply disappearing with the money, she made a choice that would define her legacy and ultimately expose her greatest weakness. She embedded a message in the blockchain transaction record, "Thanks for the babysitting money. A.K." This single line of text would become the source of massive FBI embarrassment and reveal something crucial about Astrid's personality. She wasn't just a thief, she was someone who needed recognition for her intellectual superiority. The message wasn't necessary for the crime, but it was necessary for her ego. Why leave such an obvious taunt? Psychological analysis suggests several factors. First, intellectual narcissism. Astrid wanted credit for outsmarting the FBI. Second, professional pride. She'd executed a perfect crime and couldn't resist signing her work. Third, contempt for authority. She genuinely believed she was smarter than everyone hunting financial criminals. The level of confidence required to taunt federal law enforcement during an active crime is almost incomprehensible. Most criminals try to remain invisible. Astrid wanted to be remembered. She transformed a perfect theft into a personal statement about her intellectual superiority. This reveals the fundamental flaw in even the most brilliant criminal minds. Technical perfection isn't enough if ego compromises operational security. Astrid's biggest mistake wasn't technical. It was psychological. Pride comes before the fall, even for criminal masterminds who can outsmart the FBI. 2:17 a.m. Astrid powered down the computer systems, cleaned up any trace of her activity, and settled into the living room with a book. When the Rothschilds returned at 2:45 a.m., they found their trusted babysitter exactly where they expected, curled up on the couch, reading quietly while their children slept safely upstairs. They paid her the usual rate, thanked her for staying so late, and scheduled her for the following weekend. None of them knew that their babysitter had just executed the most humiliating theft in FBI history while they danced at a charity gala. The perfect crime was complete. $25 million had vanished from the most secure digital vault in federal law enforcement. The FBI's reputation would soon be in ruins. Congressional hearings would be called. Careers would be destroyed. But the FBI had no idea they'd been robbed. The theft wouldn't be discovered for another 3 days, giving Astrid a crucial head start that she would use to disappear more completely than any fugitive in modern history. Monday morning, October 18, 2018. FBI agent Mitchell Chen walked into the federal courthouse in Hartford, Connecticut, carrying what he believed was routine paperwork for an asset forfeiture hearing. The seized Bitcoin from Operation Golden Gate would be officially transferred to government control, a standard procedure he'd completed dozens of times before. At 9:23 a.m., Agent Chen attempted to access the digital wallet system to verify the $25 million Bitcoin balance for court documentation. His screen displayed an error message. He tried again. Same error. A quick call to the IT help desk confirmed his worst nightmare. The wallet was empty. $25 million had vanished without a trace. Within minutes, emergency protocols activated throughout FBI headquarters. Assistant Director Sarah Walsh received the call that would define her career. The Bureau's most secure digital asset system had been completely compromised. The money was gone, and nobody knew how. Panic spread through the Bureau's upper levels like wildfire. Deputy Director Thompson canceled all meetings and assembled a crisis team. This wasn't just theft. This was a direct attack on federal law enforcement credibility that would have massive political implications. The initial assumption was obvious. Inside job. Someone with legitimate access had gone rogue. Internal Affairs immediately began investigating every agent with system access, running polygraph tests and analyzing financial records. The investigation consumed enormous resources while the real perpetrator remained completely invisible. Special Agent Rodriguez, a 15-year veteran of financial crimes investigation, was assigned to lead the technical analysis. Rodriguez had tracked cryptocurrency thieves across 6 continents and considered himself an expert in digital forensics. This case would humble him completely. 2 weeks of intensive investigation yielded frustrating dead ends. The theft was technically sophisticated beyond anything Rodriguez had encountered. The Bitcoin had been moved through exchanges in countries with strict banking secrecy laws, converted to privacy coins, and dispersed through offshore accounts that would take months to penetrate. Finally, a breakthrough. The intrusion originated from Katherine Rothschild's compromised credentials. Rodriguez and his team arrived at the Rothschild home expecting to interview a federal prosecutor about potential security breaches. What they discovered instead was a family in complete shock. Katherine's computer had been accessed, yes, but not by her. The timestamps showed activity during the charity gala when the entire family was out. Someone else had been in their home, using their systems, robbing the FBI while they danced for charity. The investigation quickly focused on household staff and service providers. Background checks revealed a disturbing truth. Astrid Kellerman had vanished completely. Her apartment was stripped clean, lease terminated, social media accounts deleted as if she'd never existed. Deeper investigation revealed that Astrid's employment history contained multiple fabrications. References were fake, previous employers had no record of her, and even her community college transcripts showed irregularities. The woman the Rothschilds had trusted for 3 years was essentially a ghost who had constructed an elaborate false identity. The psychological impact on the Rothschild family was devastating. Katherine couldn't focus on work, knowing that her own credentials had been used to humiliate her colleagues. David blamed himself for not securing his home office better. The children asked why their favorite babysitter had suddenly disappeared, not understanding that she'd been a criminal all along. The family's sense of security was completely shattered. They'd welcomed this woman into their most private moments, shared personal information, trusted her with their children's safety. The betrayal cut deeper than any financial loss could. Imagine discovering the person you trusted with your children was planning this the whole time. Hit subscribe if this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, because the investigation challenges get even more incredible. Rodriguez faced unprecedented investigation obstacles. Traditional criminal profiling had failed completely because Astrid didn't fit any known patterns. She wasn't desperate, addicted, or financially motivated in typical ways. She was an intellectual criminal who treated the heist like an academic challenge. The ghost identity problem proved nearly impossible to solve. Astrid had spent years constructing a false persona so convincing that it fooled federal background checks. She'd anticipated FBI investigative procedures and specifically designed her cover identity to exploit their blind spots. Most criminals leave digital footprints, but Astrid had systematically erased hers while creating false trails to confuse investigators. She understood law enforcement methodology better than many agents because she'd studied it through Katherine's case files. Rodriguez realized they weren't hunting a typical criminal. They were pursuing someone who had studied them as intensively as they were now studying her. The hunter had become the hunted, but the prey was always 3 steps ahead. The FBI's worst nightmare came true on November 2, 2018, when an internal memo describing the theft was leaked to the Washington Post. Within hours, the story exploded across every major news outlet in America. Babysitter outsmarts FBI's best, screamed the New York Times front page. CNN ran with Mary Poppins meets Ocean's 11. Late-night comedy shows had a field day, with Saturday Night Live featuring a sketch about federal agents being outsmarted by someone who changed diapers for a living. The humiliation was complete and devastating. Congressional hearings were scheduled immediately. Senator Patricia Williams, chair of the Judiciary Committee, demanded answers about how the nation's premier law enforcement agency could be robbed by a part-time child care worker. FBI Director James Crawford faced brutal questioning. How does someone with a community college degree steal $25 million from your supposedly unbreakable system? Senator Williams asked during nationally televised hearings that made federal law enforcement look incompetent. Disciplinary actions followed swiftly. 3 cybersecurity officials were reassigned, 2 senior agents took early retirement, and the entire digital asset management program underwent complete restructuring. The Bureau's reputation for technical excellence lay in ruins. Meanwhile, the search for Astrid Kellerman became the FBI's highest priority. Every available resource was deployed in what became one of the largest manhunts in Bureau history. The first breakthrough came from airport security footage. A woman matching Astrid's description was spotted at JFK Airport boarding a flight to Prague just hours after the theft was discovered. Federal agents immediately contacted Czech authorities and began coordination for international capture. But when agents arrived in Prague, they discovered the trail was fake. The woman on the security footage was a hired actress who bore only superficial resemblance to Astrid. The real fugitive had planted this false lead while escaping through completely different routes. More false leads emerged over the following weeks. Bangkok Airport showed another woman with similar height and hair color. Lagos International had footage of someone using Astrid's general physical description. Each lead required massive international coordination and resources, and each one proved to be another carefully planted distraction. Astrid had used sophisticated identity theft techniques to create multiple escape identities. She possessed passports under different names, established false travel histories, and had prepared these alternate personas years in advance. While the FBI chased shadows across 3 continents, she was already safely hidden using an identity they'd never heard of. Financial analysis revealed an even more frustrating picture. The stolen Bitcoin had been converted and moved through offshore accounts in countries with strict banking secrecy laws. Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, Singapore, each jurisdiction required lengthy legal processes to obtain banking cooperation. By the time investigators received court orders to examine these accounts, the money had already moved again. Astrid had created a financial maze that would take years to navigate, assuming they could ever fully trace it. Agent Rodriguez and his team found themselves consistently one step behind someone who seemed to anticipate their every move. Traditional tracking methods failed because Astrid understood exactly how the FBI would respond to her crime. The devastating realization hit investigators gradually. She had studied their own playbook. Through Catherine's case files, Astrid knew FBI investigative procedures, international cooperation protocols, and cryptocurrency tracking methods. She designed her escape plan specifically to exploit the Bureau's standard response patterns. "It's like playing chess against someone who's read all your previous games," Rodriguez confided to colleagues. "She knows our moves before we make them." 3 years later, Astrid Kellerman remains at large. Her photograph appears on the FBI's 10 most wanted list with a $1 million reward for information leading to her capture. The case file has grown to over 2,000 pages, spanning multiple countries and involving dozens of international law enforcement agencies. Privately, agents admit what they can't say publicly: she may never be caught. Astrid's combination of technical expertise, psychological manipulation skills, and intimate knowledge of FBI procedures makes her perhaps the most elusive fugitive in modern law enforcement history. The case transformed how federal agencies approach cybersecurity and criminal profiling. Training protocols now emphasize that the most dangerous criminals don't fit traditional patterns. Background check procedures were completely overhauled after someone with false credentials fooled multiple security screenings. Astrid succeeded because she understood her enemy better than they understood her. Knowledge truly is power, and she had spent 3 years accumulating the exact knowledge needed to humiliate the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world. The Rothschild family's nightmare didn't end when Astrid vanished. 6 months after the theft, threatening messages began arriving at their home, cryptic notes that seemed to reference private family conversations only their former babysitter could have known. "We know you remember our bedtime stories," read one message. Another contained detailed descriptions of the children's daily routines and favorite hiding places. Federal agents couldn't definitively prove these came from Astrid, but the psychological precision suggested someone with intimate knowledge of family dynamics. The family was immediately placed in witness protection. David, Katherine, and their children were relocated across the country with new identities, new schools, and new lives built around avoiding detection by someone who had already proven she could disappear completely. The psychological trauma extends far beyond relocation stress. Katherine struggles with professional confidence, knowing her credentials were used to humiliate her own agency. David experiences severe trust issues and had their new home equipped with military-grade security systems. The children, now teenagers, still ask why their favorite caregiver turned out to be dangerous. Family therapy sessions focus on rebuilding their ability to trust others, a fundamental life skill that Astrid's deception had completely shattered. The ripple effects of her crime continue affecting innocent people years after the money was stolen. The Astrid Kellerman case became required curriculum at the FBI Training Academy in Quantico. New agents study her methods to understand how traditional security measures can be defeated through patient psychological manipulation combined with technical expertise. Instructors use the case to teach a crucial lesson. The most dangerous criminals don't announce themselves. They blend into everyday life, building trust and gathering intelligence while appearing completely harmless. Systemic changes throughout federal law enforcement were swift and comprehensive. Background check protocols now include deeper verification of educational credentials, employment history cross-referencing, and psychological evaluation components designed to identify potential deception. Cybersecurity systems underwent complete overhauls. The maintenance window vulnerability that Astrid exploited was eliminated, multi-factor authentication was strengthened, and continuous monitoring protocols were implemented to detect unusual access patterns. Criminal profiling methodology expanded beyond traditional patterns. Investigators now consider intellectual criminals who treat crime as academic challenges rather than desperate acts. The assumption that highly educated individuals won't commit certain crimes was officially abandoned. The bigger picture reveals how trust itself can become a weapon. Astrid didn't break into the Rothschild home, she was invited in. She didn't hack their computers, she was given access. She didn't steal their passwords, she watched them type them while serving dinner. Modern crime has evolved beyond traditional models of desperation or opportunity. Today's sophisticated criminals understand that the best security systems still depend on human trust, and humans can be manipulated through patient relationship building and psychological understanding. Traditional security measures, locks, alarms, cameras, passwords, become meaningless when someone gains legitimate access through trust manipulation. No technical system can protect against threats that come from within the circle of trusted individuals. The Astrid Kellerman case teaches us 5 crucial life lessons that everyone should remember. Trust but verify, even with people closest to you. Verification doesn't mean paranoia, but basic security awareness should extend to household staff, service providers, and anyone with regular access to your private spaces. Criminals don't fit stereotypes. The most dangerous ones look harmless. Astrid appeared to be exactly what every parent wants in a caregiver: educated, reliable, trustworthy, and genuinely caring toward children. Background checks aren't foolproof. Determined criminals can create convincing false histories. Multiple verification sources and ongoing monitoring are necessary for sensitive positions. Cybersecurity is only as strong as human psychology. The weakest link is always human. Technical security measures mean nothing if people with legitimate access become compromised or corrupted. Pride and ego destroy even perfect plans. Astrid's taunt was unnecessary risk. Her need for recognition transformed a perfect crime into a personal signature that helped investigators understand her psychological profile. These lessons extend beyond cybersecurity into everyday life decisions about trust, verification, and personal safety awareness. The question haunts federal agents and true crime enthusiasts alike: where is Astrid Kellerman today? Some investigators believe she's living quietly on a remote island, enjoying her $25 million while federal agents search in vain. Others suspect she's already planning her next intellectual challenge, perhaps targeting a different agency or pulling off an even more audacious heist. The truth is, Astrid has become a legend in criminal circles. Dark web forums discuss her methods with admiration and fear. Cybersecurity experts use her case as the ultimate example of social engineering combined with technical expertise. She transformed from a small-town babysitter into the criminal mastermind who humiliated the FBI. Her ghost identity techniques have been studied and copied by criminals worldwide. The Astrid Kellerman playbook, patient relationship building, psychological manipulation, and intimate knowledge of target security procedures, has influenced how modern crimes are planned and executed. Whether she's retired or actively planning something new, one fact remains certain: if Astrid Kellerman wants to stay hidden, she probably will. Her understanding of law enforcement methodology, combined with virtually unlimited financial resources, makes her nearly impossible to capture. But here's what I want to know from you. What would you do if you discovered your babysitter was a criminal mastermind? Would you have spotted the red flags that the Rothschild family missed? Do you think Astrid will ever be caught, or has she executed the perfect escape? More importantly, what warning signs should parents watch for when hiring childcare? How do you balance trust with verification without becoming paranoid about everyone who enters your home? Share your thoughts in the comments because these questions matter for every family trying to keep their children safe while maintaining normal lives. This case should terrify every parent and fascinate every true crime fan. If it did both for you, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because we explore cases like this every week. Stories that challenge everything you think you know about trust, security, and human nature. And remember the most important lesson from Astrid Kellerman's story. The most dangerous criminals are the ones you never suspect. They don't look like threats. They look like solutions to your problems, people you're grateful to have in your life. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and keep questioning the stories that seem too perfect to be true. Because sometimes they are.